We continue. Now we'll talk about um, Ukraine-EU Association Agreement, and we'll have Andrzej Adamczyk, President of the European Partnership Committee, Oleksandr Sushko, Scientific Director at the Institute of Euro-Atlantic Cooperation, coordinator of Ukrainian part of EU Ukraine. Rodion Kolyshko, Director on Personal Development Department, Ullrich Schröder, Permanent Representative of MKB-Nederland, Brussels, member of the EESC, and Andris Gobiņš, President of European Movement, Latvia, member of the EESC. The briefing will be partially in English. If you need translation, you can get devices at the end of the hall. Good afternoon. Let me welcome those who expressed interest in our information. We are sure that this is very important for the society, and we will communicate more actively with the society and with media. It's just starting messages. First of all, the association agreement between EU and Ukraine came into effect, and according to that agreement, there is a number of bilateral bodies. In December, there was a council of the association, that is intergovernmental body between Ukraine and EU on the official level. In addition to that, was a regulation about starting a committee of the association. That is an intergovernmental body, but it's on the lower level. In February, we set up a parliamentary committee of the association. That's an instrument for connection between Ukrainian Parliament and European Parliament. And finally, one more body, which is provided by the agreement, which regulates cooperation between civil society institutions and EU. That is the platform of civil society. It was formally set up yesterday. It doesn't mean that civic leaders will postpone or slow in this project, but a dialogue about this, about principles of the platform, took some time. That's why only yesterday we finished that process, which began a year ago, when European partners from European Economic and Social Committee arrived to Ukraine to discuss models, principles, and ways of work in that body. Why it is called a committee? Because the association agreement provides that from EU, the platform of civic society is set up by members of the European Economic and Social Committee. In such a way, the agreement or the platform of civic society, right away it was plugged in, included into the structure of acting institutions of EU. European and Social and Economic Committee has its own history and institutional practice. From EU, who was supposed to move this process. From Ukraine, there was no subject. There was a process of negotiation between different subjects of society on different levels for us to agree who, how, in which way participates in this process from Ukraine. Last year there was a foundation process. By the end of the summer, it was announced that we collect these applications for Ukrainian platform, and we had two stages. And finally, the composition of Ukrainian side as a part of 26 26 people was developed in February, and we agreed on the date of foundation. Finally, we passed the procedure, and that the platform is founded, is established. What's the point of that platform? We have lots of civic organizations and platforms, but this platform it has a mission and a role on behalf of a broad civic society, which includes civic organizations of different professional trade unions and associations of employers, to work together on providing public participation in the process of European integration. We will monitor how the government implements the agreement on association. It includes many other issues, and also we will monitor reforms in Ukraine in the context of policy of European integration. We began that process. We try to involve, on one hand, a broad number of stakeholder organizations, those who really represent professional trade unions as broad associations and employers and experts groups, because it's very important to bring together these components and to have broad representation and also expert knowledge. It seems to us that we found that formula that makes this process legitimate, and we have enough of expert potential. So we met and built plans for the near future, and my colleagues will introduce that to you. And I will give the floor to Andrzej Adamczyk, and he was introduced, but by the decision of this newly created platform, Andrzej Adamczyk and myself, for the next 5 years, we are co-chairs of this platform, and from EU and from MKB. So, Andrzej Adamczyk.
My name is Andrzej Adamczyk. I'm a member of the European Economic and Social Committee, where I represent trade unions. I come from Poland, from trade union Solidarność. So, as you were just informed, yesterday we set up the civil society platform under the provisions of the association agreement between European Union and Ukraine. The main objective of the platform is to monitor the implementation of the association agreement and to contribute to the smooth implementation from the point of view of civil society. The agreement, including the DCFTA, which is the Deep and Comprehensive Free Trade Area, will result in the harmonization of good portion of Ukrainian legislation. According to different estimates, it may be even 80% of Ukrainian legislation will be harmonized with the so-called acquis communautaire, which is European legislation. This will be a difficult and long process, and it will never be successful without the contribution of civil society as a whole. That means employers, trade unions, and non-governmental organizations. We discussed our plans for the next couple of months till next meeting, which will probably take place in November or December this year, and we agreed that on permanent basis we will be preparing reports on the state of implementation of the association agreement. We will also, during the next meeting, we will focus on the implementation of the DCFTA, which will take effect from January next year, and we will also prepare two joint reports. One on the rule of law in the context of corruption, and the second one about the energy economy in Ukraine and the challenges which are connected with energy economy in general. So these are such are our plans for the next future. Of course, you know now that the platform is established, we will cooperate quite closely, Ukrainian side and the European side. It is also important to say that today we issued the first statement of the platform with two important political messages. The first message is that we support the European perspective for Ukraine, including membership in the European Union. And the second very important political message is that we request that the DCFTA be implemented as planned starting January next year. Thank you.
Я прошу до слова тоді в порядку черговості України.
Then I invite Rodion Kolyshko, who represents employers in this process. Thank you, Oleksandr. Good afternoon, dear friends. I represent employers in the platform of Civil Society from Ukraine and the Federation of All Employees of Ukraine. And I represent social dialogue in general, and I would like to share some expectations and from opening this mechanism. We had a very difficult road of bringing together our two parts of civic society, and finally we brought them together, and in our opinion quite organically, and we hope that bring together mechanisms that are used by social partners in the cooperation with the government and with the authorities and population and with business, and bring together that big expert power of expert communities in the field of implementation of association agreement, and also in the field of realization of enhanced agreement on free trade area. That will give that necessary impulse dynamics our country will have on the road to the European integration. And we hope that that tool will be efficient. It will be used as a consulting body during a discussion and improvement of decisions, and we will put all the efforts for the consultations and expertise we make together with our European colleagues for that to be taken into consideration, not only and also as guiding principles and as guiding instructions for the development of association agreement. Thank you. Now I invite Andris Gobiņš from Latvia, who runs a European movement of Latvia. It's a pan-European movement, and which has departments in many countries, not only in EU. And Andris represents Latvian part in this.
To start with a great thanks to the Ukrainian delegation headed by Mr. Sushko on an excellently organized conference and meeting which we had here in Kiev, which reached to concrete results. It is interesting that on EU side, and also when EU deals with its partners, as in this case with Ukraine, civil society always plays a key role. Civil society is an integral part of the agreement and is an integral part as well of the decision making in Brussels. It's very clearly stated that without civil society participation, no quality decisions can be made, and also monitoring process, the linkage between citizens and the decision makers cannot be in a very qualitative way. So thanks a lot for the Ukrainian side in actually organizing this event, in showing, and I must say, my deepest appreciation for the deep commitment and expertise from the Ukrainian experts we had the chance to meet in the last days and before we had a meeting in Brussels preparing this work. I am absolutely convinced that if we will continue in this spirit which we had in the past 2 days, that this will be a true and needed added value and even an engine for closer and better ties between the EU and Ukraine. Because whenever we want to achieve some results, it's crucial to have as well some kind of structures which make things easier to be communicated. This platform is a key structure for these EU and Ukraine civil society relations. We'll do our utmost to link to other structures which already exist, and it's really great that this work can start, will start, and will contribute to Ukraine-EU relations. Thank you very much.
Дякую, Андрис.
Thank you. And now I invite Ullrich Schröder, who represents the Netherlands, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weather is excellent today. There's a lot of sun, and I think that is a foresight about this platform. The conditions are optimal, and I hope that in future there will be done a lot of work, and a lot of work in favor of all partners in the civil society in Ukraine, and also to the advantage of the EU. As Andrzej has just mentioned, in the coming years, maybe 10 years, maybe more, there is a lot of work to be done on both sides. There will be an implementation of a lot of legislation, and it is my firm convincement that without the participation of the civil society partners, being the employers, employees, the NGOs, it will be very hard to accomplish that, and it can only be done together. And there's a lot of at stake for SMEs in Ukraine and for other businesses. Like it was mentioned, there are important issues to be discussed: liberalization, anti-corruption, the energy situation, and you will have the full support in this process of the EU and also of the Netherlands part of it. Thank you very much.
Дякую. Також є декілька.
Thank you. There are some other important members of the platform. They are here in the audience. Zariana, Hanna, they did a lot of preparation. So you see quite a broad community of us here. Questions? Your questions? I will give the first question from Ukrainian Media Crisis, Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. You said that your task will be to monitor. Why? How will you help? Will you help maybe to the parliament, or will you only monitor how the parliament in Ukraine implements the association agreement? I share your opinion because I never saw value of monitoring for the sake of monitoring. It's just a picture of the reality, but this picture is needed just to decide what to do in the future. Andrzej told, and he underlined two key moments: that monitoring and also participation in implementation and input into the implementation. This platform, it's already an implementation because it is mentioned in the agreement. So we made our input into implementation, but then monitoring we need it for us and for the broad society to have overall broad, independent, not engaged analysis of what is happening with the association. Yes, we see how the government is trying, for example, to improve the system of reporting and communication. The government issued the first report on the implementation of the agreement on the association agreement. But at the same time, civil society must give its own assessments and make its own assessment. That's why the platform is created, for the society to be to have an overall picture, because another government, no EU official, and not always they want and can see all details and aspects of this process. And no, it's not the full answer, because in the end, results of that monitoring are needed to us for us to decide about our future steps. If we identify that in some directions, as the association, Euro integration, if there are some failures, then we'll focus our efforts there. If, for example, In addition to that, that's a signal for others. So organizations that help the process, who want to find the source of information, reliable information, that's in their strategies and tactics, they can correct that depending on what information they have. So that's our product, as we hope. And we hope that it will help to develop the strategy of civic structures for us to identify where we need to put efforts, and that's what we are working on. And also we work on with the government on those decisions that are in the process of development and introduction. For example, civic platform will communicate with the government. We will get decisions on the level, on the stage of development, and draft laws on the stage of development. They will compare them with the vision our civic community has, and in that way will help the government to work better and to introduce reforms, and those are our tools. One more question. Do you believe, as a platform, is it necessary to have a position, to introduce the position on European integration in Ukrainian government? I participated several weeks ago. I participated in a press conference around that issue. Those who organized the press conference, they are very enthusiastic as to introducing the position of such a vice prime minister. I support that position, but with some admonition. I don't want it that position to be for the sake of the position. We have experience of previous years, 2005, then 2007, 2009, when we had vice prime ministers on Euro integration, Adamczyk, then the media. I doubt that experience is very successful. That's why before we introduce a position of Vice Prime Minister in European integration, we should study that experience. We should take lessons, why they failed. The situation was different. There was no association agreement. Now we have quite a concrete material to work on. But anyway, so for that position not to be just hang in the air, it should be provided in terms of resources, staff, powers. And a year ago, Boris Tarasuk received from newly elected Prime Minister Yatsenyuk a proposal to become a Vice Prime Minister in European integration, and he declined that position. Why? He explained that he doesn't want to hold a ceremonial position, and it's true. For that position to be efficient, it shouldn't be just for ceremonies. He should be a manager, a leader who runs a process, who has powers, who doesn't compete with other ministries but sees the picture overall, and who is taken as a leader, who leads this work. This is my answer as an expert. This is not an answer of the platform because we don't discuss that issue. I will add 2 words to what I was told, that because of our work, we work with the government. Every week we participate in meetings of the Cabinet of Ministers, we work with the government committees. That's why it's my personal opinion that introduction of a position and appointment even of a charismatic leader will not change the situation dramatically. European integration, that works without that position. Nobody knows whether it will work faster, even if we have a charismatic leader on this position. Everybody should do his homework, and our instrument can be that external sign of the work.
One very short comment. How we will be able to influence the process of implementation. So there are 3 joint bodies at the ministerial, expert and parliamentary level who will prepare the process of implementation of the association agreement, including the harmonization. And those bodies, those three bodies, including association committee, association council and so on, they are required under the provisions of the association agreement to consult the platform. During today's meeting, our partners, our Ukrainian partners, complained that in the 99% of different drafts of legislation which they can see, there is a stamp of the government, consultation with social partners not required. This must be changed because under the provisions of the association agreement, the government will be required to consult with all stakeholders who participate in the platform. So it will be much more difficult for the government to avoid consultation.
Дуже дякую. Наступне запитання, будь ласка.
Thank you very much. Next question. Anna Arbenyuk. Tell me please how to join the platform, and can all people join the platform? Thank you. That's a question. That's information which is very important. In the platform, as we've decided, there will be 15 people from every side. It's not a copy of the Parliament of European Parliament. So there is a risk that some very constructive professional forces will not belong to it. And in the first platform, though, now we have 26 people in there. Even they don't cover all that potential we would like to have. Also, there are some interests that will not be satisfied, and some organizations will feel pity, and they will complain that because of different reasons they are not a part of the platform. And it's clear that that will happen in the future. How to react to that? First of all, there must be information about the process, and information, basic information, said that this platform will work until November. We've decided that the first term it's quite experimental. That's why it's short. From November to November. So then in November, the second platform will be created, or other people will be in the platform. They will have powers for 2 years and a half. That's a standard term for the platform, period of the platform. There will be again 15 people from both sides. As to the composition of those 15 people, it will be quite complicated, and they will represent, on one hand, the main stakeholders of any civic society, and according to European practice, such clear main elements of that organized civic society, that is, professional trade unions and organizations of employers and some other NGOs. So we need also to use that format of cooperation. So in the framework of the platform, future platform that will be elected since November, there will be a group delegated by professional organizations, like 3 people, and 3 people from employees, 3 more people from national partnership, of Eastern Partnership, and that's the biggest platform that represents NGOs in relations with EU. So these are only 9 members.
Yes.
Moreover, we will have a more general process. We have a civil society assembly, which comprises more than 200 members. There was a very broad selection process and very inclusive process. This year we will again announce the process for selection of the new members and enrollment of new members to our platform. We will announce new rules and procedure how the selection process will take place. And again, the Civil Society Assembly will suggest 6 more members, and we expect that the future procedure will be fair and representative. We do not know who will be selected representatives in particular. We're not sure that even we will remain members of this platform, but we believe that the process should be as open as possible and allow people to compete for the seats in the platform, and our objective is to ensure such openness and to make it as the process as democratic as possible. That is the information about the new selection process to the platform. Membership will be announced in the fall, in September, in October, so I encourage you to follow up our publications in order to join timely.
Agreed by absolute consensus that we would continue to work in an open way. For example, in the meeting yesterday, there was half of the participants in the room were the official heads of the working groups, etc., and there was almost as many other people interested, and there was no one counting who is now taking the floor or not. I think that's a very important message, that it is going to continue in this open way.
Якщо дозволите, хотів би також додати, що, чесно кажучи,
I would like to add that those 15 members whom we will elect in October, it's not the exhaustive list of the platform members. Actually, they simply represent Ukrainian employers, which are much bigger number, and the associations of employers are quite numerous, and all other organizations which are represented by those 15 people, they are quite numerous. Actually, a lot of civil society organizations have a chance to be involved in the process, and we encourage representatives of civil society organizations to participate in our working groups. Participation in the working groups is absolutely open. It does not provide for access only for members. It is opened for a lot of civil society organizations, and actually it requires rather tough effort and hard work from the members. It's not just a piece of cake. It requires some responsibility from those involved. We have time for one more question or comment. Please do not forget to introduce yourself. I'm Andrzej Krupnik. What are your short-term plans, and based on your final or kick-off meeting, what are your first plans?
I mentioned already the subjects we will be discussing during the next meeting in November or December. So first of all, we have to fill those reports with the contents. So we will nominate rapporteurs at both sides who may work alone, but most probably they will work with the assistance of some experts, and they will prepare reports which will be then debated and adopted or rejected or amended by the platform itself. And of course, you know, it's only the start of the work, so the secretariats at both sides must prepare the way of communicating between ourselves, the way in which the reports are being prepared, and all practical things which must be established before the next meeting. After the next meeting, when everything is already in place, it will be much easier. But now the secretariats will have a lot to do, and it would be premature to say now how it will technically function.
Я би додав до цього, що да, ми домовилися взяти, тобто є загальна тема.
I would like to add that we have a general objective of monitoring and impact on the agreement implementation, and we have two major topics for our focus, and we will draft special reports on these topics, and that is by December we plan to issue a special review of the situation and present report on the situation in energy sector and energy security. And another important topic will be, of course, anti-corruption work. What will be the major specificity of these reports? The specificity is that European experts and Ukrainian experts will study those topics independently, will monitor implementation in those topics, in those spheres independently, and then they will bring together their vision, their opinion, and I believe this will be a special added value of these reports, that it will show two visions actually. On the other side, Ukrainian part of our platform, which is rooted in it is based on 26 different organizations and 15 working groups, which I mentioned. They have ready expert opinions in their spheres. But today, after this official stage, we have set new objectives for those working groups, those Ukrainian working groups, to update their reports and reflect today's situation. This is our initiative, our Ukrainian initiative, and then we will share our analysis and review with our Western partners, and thus our foreign partners will see our vision, and probably later on our 15 sectoral reports will contribute to future general report on implementation of the association agreement, which will produce at later stage after December. Thank you very much for your information. Unless there are no further questions, then thank you very much.
For updates, please let us know. Come back to Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. We would be glad to see you again. Good luck in what you're doing. Дуже дякуємо. На сьогодні робочий день завершено.
Our working day is over. Thank you very much.